Hello, Bible readers. It is Friday, May 21st. We're reading from Ezekiel chapters 20 to 22 and Revelation 15 and 16. As in chapter 16 of Ezekiel, Ezekiel chapter 20 constructs a narrative of Israel's history intended to justify God's judgment. Remember, that's been the theme of most of Ezekiel thus far. Judgment is coming, and it's justified. It's not that God is weak or God sits back and just allows it to happen from the force of some other gods or some other powers, but instead, no, God's all over this. Israel's exiles are about to experience the destruction of their temple. How chapter 20 is different is that chapter 16 was trying to get at the attitude Israel had that we'll be fine. We're the chosen ones. It's almost like chosen ones privilege, where we get to worship whoever we want, we get to behave however we want, we get to treat this Lord of ours however we want. And basically Ezekiel is saying, don't be so sure. Chapter 20 is saying this hope that you might glean from the exodus that Israel experienced from Egypt, or how God made promises through a covenant at Sinai, the gift from God of the land. These are not signs meant to make you all feel hope in the moment of you worshiping idols. Like, you don't get to worship idols and be like, oh, it'll be fine though, because look what happened when we got out of Egypt, and look what happened when we had promises made to us and land was given to us. Ezekiel's point is, you think of all those stories and you see time and time again persistent rebellion and idolatrous behavior. And so Israel, you in exile, you're keeping up the sins of your ancestors, and when you worship stones and wood, you think you can change God's plan by becoming something you're not built to be. You weren't chosen to be God's people in order to worship wood and stone. So Ezekiel is saying, God's going to make this right. You've made it wrong. You've broken away from just worshiping God. And so God's going to do what God's got to do. Chapter 22 then shows Jerusalem and its leaders being destroyed. Bloodshed city is what Ezekiel calls Jerusalem. Revelation, the sea of glass and the song of those who conquered is where we start in chapter 15. This is an echo. Chapter 15 has an echo of the song sung by the delivered as they made their way through the Red Sea to the other side. Being nonconformist and refusing to believe or live in a world where the beast is allowed to rule, that experience of being one of the few who don't allow themselves to live in that world, it's a lot like what Revelation is trying to say. It's a lot like walking through the parted waters to God's side of the sea. I really like that understanding of what Revelation 15 is trying to say. Chapter 16, you've got 7 angels and 7 trumpets. They're announcing the 7 last plagues. And what my commentary says is a tumult of forces in the language of myth. The images are meant to bring our attention to the chaos around us, as a moment of opportunity to pursue a different way. So it made me think of a song, the Billy Joel song, "We didn't start the fire, it's always been burning since the world's been turning." The idea here in chapter 16 is we don't have to live in the fire. The fire is raging all around us. There's chaos and all the wrong powers are ruling this world, and yet we don't have to stay living in the fire. We get to live in the waters of baptism. I am one with my God. My God is with us, all of us, at all times and in all places.